Two 6-year-old girls stood alone on a prairie trail, watching the only family they knew disappear into the dust. Their stepmother never looked back. No goodbye, no explanation, just the cruel instruction to wait here before the wagon wheels turned and kept turning until there was nothing left but silence and the terrible understanding that they'd been thrown away like broken things. Lily and Rose Carter clutched each other's hands as the sun climbed higher, as hope drained away with each passing hour, as the vastness of the Dakota Territory swallowed their small voices calling for someone, anyone, to come back. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, stay with Lily and Rose's story until the very end. Hit that like button and comment what city you're watching from, so I can see how far their journey reaches. This is a story about being discarded and discovered, about the family we choose and the courage it takes to trust again. The dust settled slowly on the prairie trail, hanging in the air like a question nobody wanted to answer. Lily Carter felt her sister's fingernails digging into her palm, but she didn't let go. She couldn't. Rose's hand was the only solid thing in a world that had just tilted sideways and dumped them out like unwanted cargo. "She said to wait," Rose whispered, her voice so small it barely disturbed the grasshoppers clicking in the buffalo grass. "She said she'd come back." Lily didn't answer. She was 6 years old, but she'd learned enough about lies to recognize one when it walked away from you. Their stepmother's face had been stone when she'd told them to climb down from the wagon. No softness, no hesitation, just that flat voice saying their father was dead 3 months now, and she couldn't afford to feed mouths that weren't her own blood. The morning had started like any other on the trail west. They'd been traveling for 2 weeks since leaving Omaha, heading toward some promise of land their stepmother's brother supposedly held in Montana Territory. Lily had believed they were going to a new home. She'd believed a lot of things that morning. The sun was directly overhead now, turning the prairie into a skillet. Sweat traced lines through the dust on Lily's face. She could feel her lips cracking, could taste salt and grit. Rose swayed slightly beside her, and Lily realized neither of them had eaten since last night's thin soup. "I'm thirsty," Rose said. "I know." "My feet hurt." "Mine too." They'd been standing for hours. Lily's legs ached, but sitting felt like giving up, like admitting they'd been left for good. As long as they stood at this exact spot where the wagon had stopped, maybe there was still a chance. A hawk circled overhead, riding thermals Lily couldn't see. She watched it drift in lazy spirals, free and unconcerned with the small drama unfolding below. The bird reminded her of something their real mother used to say, back when she was still alive, back when the world made sense. God gives birds wings but makes them find their own worms. Lily didn't know what that meant exactly, but it felt important now, like maybe nobody was coming to save them, like maybe they'd have to save themselves. "I need to sit down," Rose said, and this time her voice cracked. "My legs won't hold me anymore." Lily looked at her sister's face and saw her own exhaustion reflected back. They were identical twins, same dark hair, same gray-green eyes, same dusting of freckles across their noses. People always said they couldn't tell them apart, but Lily could. Rose's left eyebrow had a tiny scar from when she'd fallen on a rock as a baby. Rose smiled more easily, cried more easily, believed in good things more easily. Until today. "Okay," Lily said quietly. "We can sit." They lowered themselves to the packed dirt of the trail, still holding hands. The ground was hard and warm beneath them. Lily pulled their only possession closer, a rag doll their mother had sewn years ago. Its button eyes were loose, its dress faded to a color that might have once been blue. Rose had named it Margaret, and they took turns sleeping with it at night, pretending it kept bad dreams away. "Tell me the story," Rose said. "About Mama?" Lily's throat tightened. She didn't want to tell stories. She wanted to scream or run or somehow undo the morning, but Rose was looking at her with those wide eyes, waiting, needing something familiar to hold on to. "Mama had hair like ours," Lily began, her voice mechanical. "Long and dark. Papa said it looked like a raven's wing in the sunlight. She could braid it so fast her hands were just a blur, and she'd hum while she worked. She made the best cornbread in 3 counties, and she never raised her voice, not even when we tracked mud through the house or let the chickens out by accident." "Tell about the dresses," Rose prompted. "She made us matching dresses for our 5th birthday. Yellow ones with white lace at the collar. She stayed up 3 nights in a row sewing by lamplight because Papa said we couldn't afford store-bought. We wore them to church, and everyone said we looked like sunshine. I miss her. Rose's voice was barely audible. Me too. They'd lost their mother to fever when they were 4. A wet spring, a bad cold that settled deep, and then she was gone so fast neither girl really understood it. Papa had tried his best for a year, but a widower with twin daughters and a failing farm couldn't manage alone. He'd married Rebecca Winters within 18 months, and she'd brought her practicality and her tightness with money and her complete inability to love children who weren't hers. When Papa died in a logging accident this spring, Rebecca had waited exactly 2 weeks before selling everything and heading west. She'd brought Lily and Rose along, but now it was clear they'd never been part of her plans. They'd been deadweight, waiting for the right empty stretch of trail. The sun inched across the sky. Shadows lengthened. A breeze picked up, carrying the smell of sage and distant rain. Lily's stomach cramped with hunger. Beside her, Rose had gone quiet in that worrying way that meant she was retreating inside herself. "Hey," Lily said, squeezing her sister's hand. "We're going to be okay." "How do you know?" "Because we have each other. That's more than nothing." Rose nodded, but Lily saw the doubt. She felt it too, a cold weight in her chest that had nothing to do with the coming evening. They were 2 small girls alone on a trail that stretched for miles in both directions. No food, no water, no shelter if the weather turned. She'd heard stories about children lost on the prairie. They didn't end well. The hawk had disappeared. In its place, a line of clouds built on the western horizon, dark and promising rain. Lily watched them grow, calculating. Rain might mean water, but it also meant exposure. They had nothing to shield them, nowhere to take cover. The prairie stretched flat and endless in all directions. "Lily?" Rose's voice pulled her back. "Do you hear something?" Lily strained her ears. At first there was only wind, the whisper of grass, the distant yip of a coyote. Then she caught it, a rhythmic sound growing slowly louder. Hoofbeats. Her body went rigid. Could be anyone. Could be someone worse than abandonment. She'd heard the whispers women made when they thought children weren't listening, stories about what happened to little girls alone on frontier trails. Men who took children and sold them. Men who hurt them in ways Lily didn't fully understand but knew enough to fear. "Get behind me," she told Rose, pulling her sister close. The hoofbeats grew louder. A single rider crested the gentle rise to the east, silhouetted against the lowering sun. Lily's heart hammered against her ribs. The figure approached steadily, neither rushing nor hesitating. As the distance closed, details emerged. A tall man on a bay horse, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark hat pulled low. He rode with the easy confidence of someone who belonged to this land. 20 feet away he slowed. 10 feet, and Lily could see his face, weathered and tanned with lines around his eyes that suggested he spent his life squinting into sun and wind, neither young nor old, somewhere in between. His expression was unreadable. He stopped his horse and sat there for a long moment, just looking at them. Lily felt Rose trembling against her back. She straightened her spine, trying to look braver than she felt. "Evening," the man said finally. His voice was deep and quiet, carrying no threat but no particular warmth either. "You girls lost?" Lily opened her mouth, but nothing came out. What was she supposed to say? We were abandoned? Our stepmother threw us away? The truth felt too shameful, too exposing. The man waited. He didn't push, didn't demand answers, just sat his horse and let the silence stretch. Lily noticed details. His saddle was well made but worn, his clothes clean but practical, his hands steady on the reins. He wore a gun belt, but the holster sat easy, not positioned for quick draw. "We're waiting for someone," Lily said finally, the lie bitter on her tongue. "Uh-huh." The man's eyes moved from them to the trail in both directions, taking in what Lily knew he could see. No wagon tracks except the ones heading west, no shelter, no supplies. "How long you been waiting?" Lily didn't answer. Beside her, Rose made a small sound, almost a whimper. The man swung down from his horse with the fluid motion of someone who lived in the saddle. He didn't approach them, just stood by his mount and pulled a canteen from his saddlebag. He took a drink, slow and deliberate, then held it out toward them. You girls must be thirsty. Lily stared at the canteen. Her throat was so dry it hurt, but accepting help from a stranger felt dangerous. She hesitated. It's just water, the man said. Clean well water from my ranch. No tricks, no strings. Rose pulled away from Lily's back. I'm really thirsty, she whispered. The man crouched down, making himself smaller, less threatening. He set the canteen on the ground between them and backed away. There you go, take your time. Lily watched him retreat to his horse. The canteen sat in the dirt, beaded with condensation. Her body moved before her mind decided, crawling forward, snatching it up. She unscrewed the cap and sniffed. Just water, like he said. She took a small sip, testing, cool and clean, tasting of minerals and earth. She took a longer drink, then passed it to Rose. They drank in turns until half the canteen was gone. The man waited, giving them space. When they finished, Lily screwed the cap back on and held it out uncertainly. Keep it for now, he said. I've got more. He pulled another canteen from his saddle. You girls have names? Lily, she said after a pause. This is Rose. Like the flowers. Something almost like a smile touched his face. I'm Ethan Cole. I run a cattle ranch about 5 miles south of here. You mind telling me what you're really doing out here alone? Lily felt her defenses rise. I told you, we're waiting. For who? Someone. Someone who left you here hours ago, judging by those tracks. His tone stayed neutral, not accusing. Someone who's not coming back. The words landed like stones. Rose started crying quietly, and Lily felt her own eyes burn. She blinked hard, refusing to let tears fall. Ethan Cole watched them for a moment, then sighed. Listen, I don't know your story, and I won't force it out of you. But the sun's going down soon. There's rain coming in tonight, maybe a storm. This isn't a place for children to be alone after dark. We don't have anywhere else, Lily heard herself say. I figured. He glanced at the horizon, calculating. Here's what I'm offering. My ranch has a bunkhouse with an extra room. You can have it for tonight. Hot food, warm beds, a roof over your heads. Tomorrow morning, we'll figure out what comes next. No commitments beyond that. Lily's mind raced. Stranger. Alone. But also shelter, food, the cold calculation of survival. How do we know you're safe? She asked bluntly. Ethan met her eyes. You don't. Just like I don't know if you're really lost or running from something, but I've got a ranch to run and a reputation in Silver Creek that depends on people trusting me. I'm not going to do anything to harm 2 little girls. You've got my word, for whatever that's worth to you. Words don't mean much, Lily said, thinking of all the promises adults had broken. No, I suppose they don't. Ethan straightened up. Tell you what, you see that ridge? He pointed south. That's the edge of my property. We'll ride there, and you can see the ranch buildings. If you don't like the look of it, I'll bring you back here. Your choice. Rose tugged on Lily's sleeve. I don't want to stay here in the dark, she whispered. Please, Lily, I'm scared. Lily looked at her sister's tear-stained face, then at the man waiting patiently by his horse. Every instinct screamed caution, but Rose was right. They couldn't stay here, and something in Ethan Cole's steady gaze, in the way he'd given them space and time and choices, felt different from the hardness they'd seen in their stepmother's eyes. Okay, Lily said quietly. We'll look. Ethan nodded. He swung back onto his horse, then extended his hand down. Rose first. She looks lighter. He lifted Rose up with surprising gentleness, settling her in front of the saddle. Then he reached for Lily, pulling her up behind him. The horse shifted under the extra weight but held steady. Hold on to my belt, Ethan instructed. And don't worry about falling. This old boy's carried heavier loads than 3 people. They rode south as the sun touched the horizon. Lily clutched Ethan's belt with one hand and Margaret with the other. The rhythmic movement of the horse was hypnotic. She could feel Ethan's back solid against her, could smell leather and sage and something else she couldn't name. Not cologne. Just the scent of someone who worked outside, who lived close to the land. They crested the ridge and Lily saw it spread below, a ranch nestled in a valley where a creek cut through cottonwood trees. The main house was 2 stories of weathered wood with a wide porch. Outbuildings dotted the property, barn, stable, bunkhouse, storage shed. Corrals held horses and cattle. Smoke rose from the chimney, suggesting someone had a fire going. "That's Silver Creek Ranch," Ethan said. "Been in my family 15 years. We run about 200 head of cattle, breed horses, and supply beef to the mining camps up in the Black Hills." "It's big," Rose breathed. "Big enough to get lost in if you're not careful." Ethan pointed to a smaller building near the barn. "That's the bunkhouse. I've got 3 men working for me right now. Good men, but rough around the edges. They won't bother you if I tell them not to." "And the house?" Lily asked. "Just me. My wife passed 2 years back. No children." His voice stayed level, but Lily heard something underneath. Loss. The same hollowness their voices carried when they talked about their mother. They rode down the ridge as twilight deepened. By the time they reached the yard, lamps glowed in the bunkhouse windows. Ethan dismounted first, then lifted Rose down, then Lily. His hands were calloused but careful. "Stay here a minute," he said, and walked to the bunkhouse. He knocked, opened the door, and Lily heard low voices. A minute later he returned. "Come on, let's get you settled." He led them past the main house to a small addition built onto the back. Inside was a simple room with 2 narrow beds, a washstand, a small stove, and a trunk, clean but sparse. Functional. "This was meant for a housekeeper I never hired," Ethan explained. He lit the lamp on the washstand. "You girls can wash up here. I'll bring food and blankets." He left before Lily could respond. She and Rose stood in the lamplight, looking at the beds, the clean floor, the window with real glass. It felt too good to trust. "Do you think he's telling the truth?" Rose whispered. "I don't know." Lily set Margaret carefully on one of the beds. "But we're here now. We might as well eat." Ethan returned carrying a tray. Soup, bread, milk, and 2 thick quilts. He set everything on the trunk that served as a table. "It's not fancy, but it'll fill you up." Lily stared at the food, her stomach cramped with sudden, violent hunger. "Go ahead," Ethan said. "Eat." They fell on the soup like starving animals, which they were. Hot broth with chunks of beef and potato. Fresh bread with real butter. Cold milk that left white mustaches on their upper lips. Ethan watched from the doorway, his expression impossible to read. When they'd scraped the bowls clean, he collected the tray. "There's a privy out back if you need it. I'll be in the main house if anything scares you. Just holler." "Thank you," Rose said quietly. Ethan paused. "You're welcome. Get some sleep. We'll talk in the morning." After he left, Lily and Rose used the privy, then washed their faces and hands in the basin. The water was clean, and there was real soap. They climbed into the beds fully clothed, too exhausted to do more. The quilts smelled like cedar and sunshine. "Lily?" Rose's voice came through the darkness. "Do you think we can stay?" "I don't know. Let's see what tomorrow brings." But even as she said it, Lily felt something unfamiliar settling in her chest. Not quite hope. Not yet. But maybe the absence of despair. For the first time since their father died, they'd gone to sleep with full stomachs and clean faces in a place that didn't feel actively hostile. Outside, rain began to fall. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Lily listened to it, thinking about the Prairie Trail, about what would have happened if Ethan Cole hadn't ridden by. She clutched Margaret close and let her eyes drift shut. Tomorrow would bring questions. Tomorrow would require decisions. But tonight, for this one night, they were safe. Morning light filtered through the window, pale and clean. Lily woke to the sound of roosters and the distant lowing of cattle. For a moment she couldn't remember where she was, her mind still caught in the fog of dreams where their mother braided hair and their father laughed at the supper table. Then reality settled back in. The small room, the quilt smelling of cedar, Rose breathing softly in the bed beside hers. They weren't on the trail. They weren't alone. Lily sat up slowly, her body stiff from yesterday's ordeal. Through the window, she could see the ranch coming to life. Men moved between buildings, their voices carrying on the morning air. Horses whinnied from the corrals. Smoke rose from the bunkhouse chimney, bringing the smell of coffee and bacon. Rose stirred, blinking against the light. "We're still here," she whispered, as if afraid speaking too loud would break the spell. "Yeah, we're still here." A knock on the door made them both freeze. "You girls awake?" Ethan's voice, gruff but not unkind. Yes, sir, Lily called back. Breakfast in 10 minutes. Come to the main house when you're ready. They heard his boots retreat across the yard. Lily looked at Rose, saw her own uncertainty mirrored back. Last night in the darkness, accepting help had seemed like simple survival. In the daylight, with full stomachs and clear heads, it felt more complicated. What did Ethan Cole want from them? Nobody gave shelter and food for nothing. They used the privy and washed their faces, trying to make themselves presentable with what little they had. Their dresses were stained and wrinkled from days of travel. Their hair hung in tangles neither could properly fix without help. They looked like what they were, abandoned children with no one to care how they appeared. The main house was bigger up close. The porch wrapped around 3 sides, and rocking chairs sat empty in the morning light. Lily knocked hesitantly on the door. "It's open," Ethan called. They entered a large kitchen warmed by a cast-iron stove. The room was clean but cluttered with the disorder of a man living alone. Dishes stacked haphazardly, papers covering one end of the table, boots by the door. Ethan stood at the stove, flipping eggs in a skillet with the competence of someone who'd learned to cook by necessity rather than choice. "Sit," he said, nodding toward the table. "Coffee's too strong for young ones, but there's milk in the pitcher." They sat gingerly on the wooden chairs. Ethan brought plates loaded with eggs, bacon, and fried potatoes. More food than Lily had seen in weeks. He sat across from them with his own plate and a cup of black coffee. For several minutes, nobody spoke. They ate, and Ethan drank his coffee, and the morning sounds of the ranch filtered through the open window. Lily felt the weight of unasked questions pressing down on the silence. Finally, Ethan set his cup down. "I figure it's time we talk straight. You girls want to tell me what happened yesterday?" Lily's fork paused halfway to her mouth. She looked at Rose, who had gone very still. "Our pa died 3 months ago," Lily said carefully. "Logging accident up near Omaha. Our stepmother couldn't afford to keep us. So she left you on the trail. She said to wait." The words felt foolish now, childish. "We waited." Ethan's jaw tightened. "How long were you married to your pa?" "She married him about 1.5 years ago, after our real mama died of fever. And she took you west, then just dropped you off in the middle of nowhere." It wasn't a question. Ethan's voice stayed level, but Lily heard anger underneath. "You know which direction she was heading?" "Montana Territory. She said her brother had land there." Ethan nodded slowly, processing. "You girls have any other family, grandparents, aunts, or uncles on your father's side?" "No, sir. Pa was an only child and his parents died before we were born. Mama had a sister, but she moved to California years ago. We don't know where. So nobody's looking for you. Nobody knows where you are." The truth of it hit Lily like a fist. They'd been erased. Their stepmother could tell whatever story she wanted. The twins died of fever, they ran off, they never existed at all. Who would question her? Who would care? "What are you going to do with us?" Lily asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Ethan leaned back in his chair, studying them both. "That depends. What do you want?" The question caught her off guard. Adults didn't usually ask children what they wanted. They told them, directed them, moved them around like furniture. "We want to stay together," Lily said firmly. "Whatever happens, we don't get separated." "Fair enough. Anything else?" Rose spoke up, her voice small but determined. "We don't want to be sent away again. We'll work. We can earn our keep. We're not afraid of hard work." Something shifted in Ethan's expression. "You're 6 years old. You shouldn't have to earn your right to eat and sleep under a roof." "But we have to be useful," Lily insisted. "Otherwise, why would anyone keep us?" Ethan was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was gentler. "Let me tell you something about this ranch. I built it with my wife, Sarah. We worked this land for 8 years together. She wanted children, but it never happened for us. Then 2 years ago, she got sick. Started small, just tired all the time, losing weight. By the time we figured out something was really wrong, it was too late. Cancer. She died that winter." He paused, looking past them to something they couldn't see. "This house has been too quiet since. Too empty. I work from sunup to sundown because there's nothing else to do. The men in the bunkhouse are good workers, but they're not family. They're not permanents." Why are you telling us this? Lily asked. Because I'm trying to figure out what's right here. I can take you into Silver Creek tomorrow, see if anyone's looking for children to take in. Maybe there's a family who'd want twins. Or I can contact the territorial authorities, see about an orphanage. No. The word came out harder than Lily intended. No orphanages. We've heard stories. Kids get separated. They get sent to workhouses or sold as labor. Not all orphanages are like that. Maybe not, but we're not risking it. Ethan nodded slowly. Then that leaves one other option. You stay here. I feed you, clothe you, give you a place to sleep. You go to school when the term starts in fall. You help around the house and learn ranch work as you're able. And we see how it goes. Lily's heart hammered. It sounded too good, too easy. Why would you do that? Because I rode past you yesterday and I can't unsee it. Two little girls standing in the dust, holding hands like it was the only thing keeping you tethered to the world. I can't send you off to strangers or institutions knowing that might be worse than the trail. He met her eyes. And because Sarah would have stopped too. She would have brought you home without a second thought. Rose's hand found Lily's under the table. Can we really stay? For now. We'll take it one day at a time. If it doesn't work, if you're miserable, or if I'm not fit to look after children, we'll figure something else out. But we'll try. That's all I can promise. Lily felt tears prick her eyes and blinked them back fiercely. She wouldn't cry. Crying was for people who had the luxury of breaking down. We'll pull our weight, she said. We won't be a burden. I don't expect you to be miniature adults. You're children. You'll act like children, and that's fine. Ethan stood, collecting the empty plates. But if you're staying, there are some rules. You mind me when I tell you something. You don't wander off the property without permission. You treat the ranch hands with respect, and they'll do the same. And you tell me if something's wrong, or if someone's bothering you. Understood? Yes, sir, they said in unison. Good. Now, first order of business. We need to get you proper clothes. Those dresses are about worn through. He looked them over critically. You'll need work dresses, Sunday dresses, boots, undergarments, hair ribbons, the whole business. There's a general store in town that should have what we need. We don't have money, Lily said quietly. Didn't ask if you did. I'm buying. Consider it an investment. He grabbed his hat from the peg by the door. Hitch up the wagon while I finish the morning chores. We'll head into Silver Creek before noon. After he left, Lily and Rose sat in the kitchen, stunned into silence. The morning sun slanted through the window, illuminating dust motes that danced in the air. The house smelled like coffee and bacon grease and something else. Lemon oil, maybe, from the furniture polish Ethan must have used at some point. Do you think he means it? Rose whispered. Can we really stay? I think so, for now, anyway. Lily stood, gathering their dirty plates. We should clean up, show him we're useful. They washed the dishes in the basin, careful with the precious hot water Ethan had left heating on the stove. They wiped down the table and swept the floor with the broom they found in the corner. When Ethan returned 20 minutes later, the kitchen was spotless. He stopped in the doorway, taking it in. You didn't have to do that. We wanted to, Lily said, to say thank you. Well, thank you for the thank you. He almost smiled. Wagon's ready. Let's go. The ride into Silver Creek took 40 minutes. The town sat at a crossroads where miners heading to the Black Hills met ranchers moving cattle to market. It was bigger than Lily expected. 2 streets of false-fronted buildings, a church with a white steeple, a schoolhouse on the edge of town, and enough houses to suggest a real community lived here. Ethan parked the wagon outside the general store and helped them down. Inside, the store smelled of leather and coffee and pickles. Bolts of fabric lined one wall. Ready-made clothing hung on racks, barrels of dry goods sat in rows. A woman in her 50s looked up from behind the counter. She had kind eyes and graying hair pulled back in a practical bun. Ethan Cole, haven't seen you in town in a month. Been busy, Margaret. These are Lily and Rose Carter. They're staying with me for a while. Need to outfit them properly. Margaret's gaze moved from Ethan to the twins, taking in their ragged appearance. Her expression shifted, understanding flooding in. I see. Well, we'll get them fixed up. Come on, girls. Let's find you some things that fit. For the next hour, Margaret measured and fitted and pulled items from shelves. Work dresses in sturdy cotton, Sunday dresses with lace collars, undergarments and stockings, boots that actually fit, bonnets to keep the sun off, nightgowns for sleeping, hair ribbons in colors that made Rose gasp with delight. "They'll need soap and hairbrushes too," Margaret said, "and tooth powder. Growing girls need proper grooming supplies." Ethan nodded, not questioning the growing pile on the counter. When everything was tallied, he paid in cash without flinching. The amount made Lily dizzy, more money than she'd seen in her life. "Thank you, Ethan," Margaret said warmly. "And girls, you take care of this man. He's one of the good ones." Outside, loading the packages into the wagon, Lily gathered her courage. "Mr. Cole, that was a lot of money. We'll pay you back someday. I promise." Ethan secured the last bundle and turned to face them. "You don't owe me anything, and if we're going to live under the same roof, you might as well call me Ethan. Mr. Cole makes me feel ancient." "Our stepmother said we had to call adults sir or ma'am," Rose said hesitantly. "Is that not a rule here?" "For most folks in town, sure. But in private, at the ranch, Ethan's fine. We're going to be family of a sort. Might as well act like it." The word family settled over Lily like a blanket. Warm, but strange. She didn't know if she could trust it yet. They stopped at the post office on the way out of town. Ethan went in alone, leaving them in the wagon. Through the window, Lily watched him speak with the postmaster, saw papers change hands. When he returned, his expression was grim. "What were you doing?" Lily asked as they started back toward the ranch. "Checking if anyone's reported children missing. Posted a notice asking if anyone knows of twin girls lost or abandoned." He kept his eyes on the road. "If your stepmother has a change of heart, or if other family turns up, they have a way to find you." Lily's stomach clenched. "What if she comes back?" "Then we'll deal with it. But I won't let you be taken by someone who threw you away, not without a fight." The certainty in his voice eased something in Lily's chest. Here was an adult making promises, but somehow it felt different from all the other promises that had been broken. Maybe because Ethan didn't make them lightly. Maybe because he'd already backed his words with action. Back at the ranch, they carried the packages to their room. The afternoon sun warmed the small space as they unpacked their new possessions. Rose held up a blue dress with white buttons, her face glowing. "It's so pretty," she breathed. "Can I wear it tomorrow?" "Save it for Sunday," Lily said, channeling practicality even as her own fingers traced the fabric of a green dress that matched her eyes. "We should wear the work clothes for every day." They changed into their new work dresses and boots, marveling at how the clothes actually fit, how the fabric wasn't worn thin or patched. They brushed each other's hair with the new brushes until the tangles were gone and their dark hair shone. They tied ribbons at the ends of their braids, pink for Rose, green for Lily. When they emerged, Ethan was working in the corral with a young horse. He looked up as they approached, and something crossed his face. Surprise, maybe, or sadness. Lily wondered if they reminded him of the children he'd never had. "Don't you girls clean up nice?" he said. "Feel better?" "Yes, sir, Ethan," Lily corrected herself. "Thank you for everything." "You're welcome. Now, since you're so set on being useful, how about you help me with this colt? He needs gentle hands and patience, and I'm short on both today." They spent the afternoon in the corral, learning to approach the skittish young horse with soft voices and slow movements. Ethan showed them how to read the animal's body language, how to offer their hands for sniffing, how to brush the coat in long, soothing strokes. By evening, the colt was letting Rose feed him apple slices from her palm. "You've got a gift," Ethan told her. "Animals trust you. That's not something you can teach." Rose beamed under the praise. Lily felt a pang of something that wasn't quite jealousy, but wasn't quite pride either. She wanted to be good at something too, wanted to prove her worth. Dinner that night was beef stew with vegetables from the root cellar. They ate in the kitchen again, but this time the silence felt less weighted, easier. Ethan asked about their schooling, and Lily admitted they could read and write, but not much beyond that. "We'll fix that," Ethan said. "School starts in September. It's June now, so you've got the summer to catch up. I've got books in the study. You can read whatever you want." After dinner, Ethan led them to a room off the main hall. Floor-to-ceiling shelves lined the walls, packed with books. Lily's breath caught. She'd never seen so many books outside a church. Take your pick, Ethan said. Just put them back when you're done. Rose pulled down a book about horses. Lily chose something about frontier explorers. They carried their treasures back to their room and read by lamplight until their eyes grew heavy. That night, falling asleep between clean sheets and a nightgown that smelled of new cotton, Lily let herself feel something dangerous. Hope. The kind that could shatter if you weren't careful. But maybe, just maybe, they'd found something here. Not a replacement for what they'd lost. Nothing could replace their mother or their father or the life they'd had before. But a new beginning. A second chance. In the bed across from hers, Rose hugged Margaret tight. "Lily?" she whispered. "I think I like it here." "Me too," Lily admitted. "Me too." Outside, the prairie wind whispered through the grass. The creek murmured over stones. The ranch settled into the rhythms of night, and two girls who'd been abandoned on a dusty trail began very carefully to believe they might actually be home. The days took on a pattern after that. Mornings brought chores, gathering eggs from the henhouse, helping Ethan with the horses, learning to churn butter. Afternoons were for reading and lessons. Ethan taught them arithmetic using ranch accounts, showed them geography through maps of territories they'd never seen. Evenings meant supper together, then quiet hours before bed. The ranch hands, Tom, Carlos, and an older man named Hank, treated them with cautious kindness. Tom taught them to skip stones on the creek. Carlos showed them how to braid rope. Hank carved them wooden animals from scraps of pine, his weathered hands surprisingly deft. "Those girls settling in all right?" Lily overheard Tom ask Ethan one morning. "Seem to be. They're good kids. Too good, maybe. Like they're afraid to step wrong. Give them time. They'll relax when they realize you're not going anywhere." But that was the fear, wasn't it? That Ethan would change his mind. That this would turn out to be temporary. Lily watched for signs, impatience, regret, the hardening of expression that had preceded their stepmother's abandonment. She found none. Ethan was steady, constant as the land itself. 2 weeks passed, then 3. The twins grew tanned from sun and stronger from work. They learned to ride the gentler horses, to recognize the calls of different birds, to predict weather by watching clouds. Rose bloomed under the attention and safety. Lily remained more guarded, but even she felt the armor around her heart starting to crack. One evening, as they sat on the porch after supper, Ethan cleared his throat. "I've been thinking, if you girls are going to stay here long term, we should make it more official. Legal." Lily went still. "What do you mean?" "I mean adoption papers. Making you Carters still, but giving me legal guardianship, so if anyone questions your presence here, there's documentation. Protection." "You'd do that?" Rose's voice was barely a whisper. "If you want. It doesn't have to be forever, but it gives us all security while we figure things out." Lily looked at her sister, saw her own shock reflected back. This wasn't temporary shelter. This wasn't charity with an expiration date. Ethan was offering them permanence, a legal tie that bound them together as family, not just convenience. "Yes," Lily said, and her voice cracked on the word. "Yes, we want that." Ethan nodded, satisfied. "Then I'll talk to the lawyer in town next week. We'll make it official." That night, for the first time since their mother died, Lily cried. Not from grief or fear, but from relief so profound it hurt. Rose crawled into bed with her, and they held each other while tears soaked the pillowcase. They'd been lost. They'd been abandoned. They'd stood on a trail with nothing but each other and a rag doll and the terrible certainty that the world had no place for them. And then a stranger had stopped, had asked their names, had given them time and space, and eventually belonging. It wasn't the family they'd lost. It would never be that. But it was something new. Something they were building together, one careful day at a time. Outside, the prairie night sang its ancient song. Inside, two girls who'd been forgotten learned what it meant to be chosen. The lawyer's office smelled of old paper and pipe tobacco. Lily sat rigid in the leather chair, Rose pressed against her side, while Ethan spoke with a gray-haired man named Samuel Pritchard. Legal words floated through the air, guardianship, custody, territorial statutes, but Lily caught the essential thread. Ethan was making them his, not in blood, but in law. In the eyes of everyone who mattered, they would become his daughters. The process is straightforward, given the circumstances, Pritchard said, adjusting his spectacles. Abandonment is clear. No family has come forward. Mr. Cole has means and character references. The territorial judge will review the petition, but I don't foresee complications. How long? Ethan asked. 4 to 6 weeks for the hearing. Assuming approval, the papers will be finalized within days after that. Pritchard turned his attention to the twins. Girls, do you understand what's happening here? Lily found her voice. Ethan wants to adopt us, make us legal. And is this something you want? She looked at Rose, who nodded quickly, then back to Pritchard. Yes, sir. We want to stay. Even understanding that adoption means Mr. Cole would have full parental authority, that he could make decisions about your schooling, your work, your futures? He already does that, Lily said. But he asks us what we think. He listens. That's more than most. Something like approval crossed Pritchard's face. Very well. I'll file the petition this afternoon. Ethan, I'll need you to bring the girls back in 2 weeks for a meeting with the territorial child welfare representative. Standard procedure. Outside, the July heat pressed down like a weight. Silver Creek bustled with activity. Miners restocking supplies, ranchers conducting business, women shopping with baskets on their arms. Lily watched a mother and daughter walk past, their hands clasped, their faces relaxed in the easy intimacy of people who belong to each other without question. You girls want ice cream? Ethan asked, breaking her reverie. There's a shop on the next block that makes it fresh. Rose's eyes went wide. Real ice cream? The realest. Come on. They sat at a small table in the shop, eating vanilla ice cream with strawberry sauce while the world moved past the window. Ethan watched them with an expression Lily was learning to recognize. Something between contentment and sadness, like a man remembering things he'd lost while being grateful for what he'd found. Can I ask you something? Lily said carefully. Always. Why us? Why not look for orphans who needed homes? Why take in 2 random girls from the trail? Ethan set his spoon down. You weren't random. You were right there, right when I happened to ride past. Sarah used to say there's no such thing as coincidence. Just invitations we're smart enough or foolish enough to accept. I saw you standing there and knew if I rode on, I'd regret it every day for the rest of my life. But you didn't know us. We could have been trouble. You could have been. But I looked at how you held your sister's hand, how you stood between her and danger even though you were terrified. I saw character, loyalty, the kind of spine that doesn't break easy. He met her eyes. Those aren't things you can teach. You either have them or you don't. You girls have them. Rose wiped ice cream from her chin. Do you miss your wife? The question hung in the air. Lily held her breath, afraid they'd overstepped, but Ethan just nodded slowly. Every day. She was the best person I ever knew, patient and funny and stronger than she looked. When she got sick, she made me promise not to let the ranch die with her, said this place needed life and noise and purpose. He looked at them both. I think she'd be glad you're here. I think she'd say I finally listened. They finished their ice cream in comfortable silence. On the way back to the wagon, they passed the schoolhouse. Through the windows, Lily could see empty desks waiting for September. She felt a flutter of nervousness. She and Rose had only attended school sporadically before their mother died, and not at all after their father remarried. What if they couldn't keep up? What if the other children were cruel? You're thinking too hard, Ethan observed. I can practically hear the gears grinding. Just wondering about school. We're behind. You'll catch up, and if anyone gives you trouble, you tell me. Teachers around here know better than to let children be bullied. Frontier life's hard enough without making it harder on each other. Back at the ranch, life continued its steady rhythm. The twins worked through the lessons Ethan set for them, their minds hungry for knowledge after so long with nothing to feed them. Rose excelled at natural subjects, animals, plants, the patterns of weather. Lily gravitated toward history and mathematics, finding comfort in facts and figures that behaved predictably. The heat of July settled over the prairie like a blanket. The creek ran lower, and the grass turned from green to gold. Ethan and his men worked long days moving cattle to better grazing, mending fences, preparing for the fall roundup. The twins helped where they could, hauling water, mending tack, keeping the kitchen garden weeded and watered. One afternoon, a wagon rolled up the drive. Lily looked out to see a woman in a severe black dress climb down, followed by a thin man carrying a leather satchel. Her stomach dropped. Official visitors. The kind who decided fates. Ethan met them in the yard, his posture careful. "Mrs. Brennan, Mr. Foster. Wasn't expecting you until next week." "We prefer unannounced visits," the woman said crisply. "Gives a more accurate picture of circumstances. I'm Dorothy Brennan, Territorial Child Welfare Representative. This is Mr. Foster, my assistant. We're here to assess the suitability of your home for the Carter twins." Lily grabbed Rose's hand. They'd known this was coming, but the reality of it felt like standing on the trail again, waiting to be judged and found wanting. "Of course," Ethan said smoothly. "Girls, come here, please." They walked out slowly, acutely aware of Mrs. Brennan's sharp eyes taking in every detail. Her gaze swept over their clean dresses, their braided hair, their sturdy boots, looking for flaws, looking for reasons to take them away. "Lily and Rose Carter," Mrs. Brennan said. "I understand you've been residing here for approximately 5 weeks. Is that correct?" "Yes, ma'am," Lily said. "And how have you been treated?" "Good. Very good. Be specific. Describe your daily routine." Lily outlined their days, the chores, the lessons, the meals together, the books Ethan let them read. She tried to make it sound proper and structured, the kind of life that would satisfy an inspector's checklist. Mrs. Brennan's expression remained neutral. "Show me where you sleep." They led her to their room. Lily watched the woman take inventory, the 2 beds with their quilts, the washstand, the small stove, the trunk where they kept their clothes. She opened the trunk without asking, examining the contents. She checked the chamber pot, ran her finger along the windowsill checking for dust, even inspected the lamp oil to ensure it was fresh. "You share this room?" Mrs. Brennan stated. "Yes, ma'am. We don't mind. We like being together." "And Mr. Cole? Where does he sleep?" "In the main house. He doesn't come in here unless we call for him." Mrs. Brennan made notes in a small book. "Has he ever behaved inappropriately toward either of you? Touched you in ways that made you uncomfortable?" Lily felt her face heat. "No, ma'am. Never. He's been nothing but proper." Children sometimes protect adults who frighten them. You can speak freely. You won't be punished for honesty." "I am being honest," Lily said, letting steel creep into her voice. "Ethan's been kind and decent. He gave us a home when nobody else would. He feeds us and teaches us and treats us like we matter. There's nothing inappropriate about it." Something flickered in Mrs. Brennan's eyes. Approval, perhaps, or at least acknowledgement of Lily's conviction. She closed her notebook. "Show me the rest of the house." They walked through the kitchen, the study, the parlor. Mrs. Brennan examined everything with the thoroughness of someone trained to find problems. She questioned Ethan about his finances, his character references, his plans for their education. She interviewed Tom and Hank separately, asking about Ethan's temperament and treatment of the children. Finally, she stood in the kitchen with her assistant while Ethan and the twins waited in tense silence. "Mr. Cole," Mrs. Brennan said, "I've seen many placements in my years doing this work. Some homes are adequate, some are questionable. And some," she paused, "some are exactly what children need. Your ranch falls into the 3rd category." Lily felt her knees go weak with relief. "However," Mrs. Brennan continued, "there are concerns. You're a single man raising twin girls. As they grow older, issues of propriety will arise. They'll need guidance on matters you're not equipped to provide. They'll need a woman's influence." "I understand that," Ethan said. "I was planning to hire a housekeeper, someone respectable who could help with those concerns." "That would be advisable. Additionally, the girls will need proper schooling. I'll expect regular reports on their attendance and progress." "You'll have them." Mrs. Brennan turned to Lily and Rose. "Girls, if you ever feel unsafe or unhappy here, you can contact my office in Rapid City. Don't let loyalty or fear keep you silent. Your well-being is paramount. Understood?" "Yes, ma'am," they chorused. "Very well. Mr. Cole, I'll file a positive recommendation with Judge Hawkins. Barring any complications, the adoption should proceed as planned." She offered her hand. "You're doing a good thing here. Don't make me regret supporting it. After they left, Ethan sagged against the kitchen table. That woman could intimidate a grizzly bear. She was scary, Rose agreed. But she approved us, Lily said, still processing. We're really going to be adopted. Looks that way, though she's right about one thing. I need to hire a housekeeper, someone who can help with things I'm too thick-headed to know about. He looked at them both. You two have opinions on that? Someone nice, Rose said immediately. Not mean like our stepmother. Someone who knows about girl things, Lily added. Hair and clothes and whatever else we're supposed to learn. I'll ask around town, see who might be looking for work. Ethan straightened. For now, let's celebrate not failing inspection. Who wants to go fishing? They spent the afternoon at the creek, poles in hand, learning the patience required to catch trout. Rose caught 3. Lily caught none but didn't mind. The sun on her face, the sound of water over stones, the solid presence of Ethan teaching them to read the current. It all felt more real than anything she'd experienced in months. That evening they fried the trout for supper. Tom and Carlos joined them, and the kitchen filled with laughter and stories. Carlos told about a cattle drive gone wrong, where a whole herd stampeded because someone's hat blew off. Tom countered with a story about a horse that learned to open gates and let all the other horses out every night for a week before they figured out the culprit. Lily watched Rose's face glow in the lamplight, listened to her sister's genuine laughter, and felt something loosen in her chest. This was what family sounded like. Not the tense silences of their stepmother's table, or the careful quiet of people walking on eggshells. This was ease and belonging, and the simple comfort of people who chose to be together. 2 weeks later, Ethan brought home a woman named Clara Peterson. She was 50-something, widowed, with gray-streaked brown hair, and a no-nonsense manner softened by warm eyes. She'd run a boarding house in Deadwood until it burned down last winter, and she was looking for steadier employment than the rough mining towns offered. I don't abide laziness or lying, Clara said, meeting the twins' eyes directly. But I also don't believe in harsh discipline or making children feel small. We'll get along fine if you're honest with me, and I'll do the same for you. Fair enough? Lily liked her immediately. There was none of their stepmother's brittleness in Clara. None of the cold calculation, just straightforward practicality and an air of competence that suggested she'd weathered enough life to know what mattered. Clara moved into the room at the other end of the house and immediately began reorganizing things with Ethan's bemused approval. She took over the cooking, which improved dramatically. She taught the twins how to properly care for their hair, how to mend clothes with invisible stitches, how to set a table for company. She was patient with questions and firm with corrections, striking a balance that felt neither cruel nor permissive. You're good girls, she told them one afternoon while teaching them to make bread. I can tell you've had it hard. But hard times don't have to define you. You get to decide who you become, not what was done to you. August arrived with thunderstorms that broke the heat. The prairie turned green again where rain fell, and the creek ran higher. Ethan began preparing for the fall roundup, working with his men to organize supplies and routes. The twins helped where they could, feeling more confident in their place here with each passing day. The adoption hearing was set for August 23rd. The morning arrived clear and warm, and they dressed in their Sunday best. Lily wore the green dress that matched her eyes, Rose the blue one she loved. Clara braided their hair with extra care, weaving in ribbons and making sure every strand lay perfect. You look like proper young ladies, Clara said, adjusting Rose's collar. Now remember, speak clearly, answer honestly, and don't be afraid. Judge Hawkins is fair. He'll see what's right here. The courthouse in Rapid City was larger than anything in Silver Creek, a brick building with columns that made Lily feel very small. Inside, the courtroom smelled of wood polish and old law books. Judge Hawkins sat behind a massive desk, an older man with silver hair and sharp blue eyes that seemed to miss nothing. Samuel Pritchard presented the case. Abandonment documented by Ethan's testimony and the lack of any family coming forward to claim the children. Ethan's financial stability proven through bank records and property deeds. Character references from the territorial marshal, from Silver Creek's mayor, from 3 different ranchers who'd done business with him for years. Mrs. Brennan testified about her inspection, her tone professional, but with an undercurrent of approval that made Lily's heart lift. The placement is appropriate, she said firmly. Mr. Cole has provided a stable, nurturing environment. The children are clean, well-fed, educated, and most importantly, they exhibit none of the fear or trauma indicators I typically see in children being exploited or mistreated. They've bonded with Mr. Cole and are thriving under his care. Judge Hawkins listened to everything, then turned his attention to the twins. Lily and Rose Carter, please approach. They walked forward on shaking legs. The judge studied them for a long moment, then spoke in a surprisingly gentle voice. I need to hear from you directly. Are you comfortable living with Mr. Cole? Yes, sir, Lily said. Very comfortable. Has he treated you well, fed you properly, given you a safe place to sleep? Yes, sir. He's given us everything we need and more. Do you want him to adopt you, to become your legal guardian? Lily felt Rose's hand slip into hers. Yes, sir, we want to stay. We want to be his daughters. Even understanding that adoption is permanent? That Mr. Cole would have authority over you until you reach adulthood? That's what we want, Lily said firmly. He stopped when he didn't have to. He chose us when nobody else would. We choose him back. Something shifted in Judge Hawkins' expression. He nodded slowly. Very well. Based on the testimony presented and the clear desire of all parties involved, I'm granting the adoption petition. Lily and Rose Carter will become Lily and Rose Cole, with Ethan Cole designated as their legal guardian and adoptive father. The court recognizes this placement as being in the best interest of the children. He signed the papers with a flourish, and just like that, it was done. Legal, permanent, real. Outside the courthouse, Ethan knelt to their level. You're officially stuck with me now. No backing out. Rose threw her arms around his neck. Lily followed more slowly, still processing the enormity of what had just happened. Ethan hugged them both, careful and gentle, like they were something precious he was afraid to break. Thank you, Lily whispered against his shoulder, for stopping, for staying, for choosing us. Thank you for trusting me enough to stay, Ethan replied. I know it wasn't easy. They celebrated with dinner at the nicest restaurant in Rapid City, then rode home as the sun set over the prairie. The ranch looked different somehow when they crested the ridge. Not physically changed, but transformed by the knowledge that it was truly theirs now. Home, not by chance or charity, but by law and choice and the binding power of family. That night, Clara made apple pie, and they ate it on the porch while stars emerged overhead. Tom played a fiddle nobody knew he owned, coaxing sweet, sad melodies from the strings. Carlos told stories in a mix of English and Spanish that made everyone laugh. Hank whittled quietly, his knife shaving curls of wood into the shape of a bird. Lily leaned against Ethan's chair, Rose on his other side, and felt the last of her armor fall away. They'd been abandoned on a trail with nothing. They'd been picked up by a stranger who became something more. And now they had papers that said they belonged, that said they were wanted, that said someone had chosen to build a life that included them. It wasn't the family they'd lost. Nothing would ever bring back their mother's gentle hands or their father's laugh. But it was a new family, constructed from honesty and work and the daily choice to stay together. It was built on different ground, but it was just as real. Above them, the Dakota sky spread vast and star-scattered, the same sky that had witnessed their abandonment and their rescue. The prairie wind carried the scent of sage and rain and possibility. In the distance, a coyote called, answered by another, their voices weaving through the darkness in ancient conversation. Tell me something, Ethan said quietly. That first day on the trail, when I stopped and asked who you were, what made you trust me enough to come? Lily thought about it, remembering the fear and desperation and the terrible understanding that they had no good choices. You didn't rush us, she said finally. You gave us time. You gave us water and waited while we decided. You made it feel like we had a choice, even when we really didn't. That's what made the difference. And you didn't make promises you couldn't keep, Rose added. You said we'd try it, not that everything would be perfect. You told the truth. Ethan nodded slowly. I'll keep telling the truth, even when it's hard. That's my promise to you both. No lies, no false hope, just what's real. That's all we need, Lily said, and meant it. The evening deepened into night. One by one, the ranch hands drifted off to the bunkhouse. Clara gathered the dishes and headed inside. Soon it was just Ethan and the twins, sitting in comfortable silence while the world settled into sleep around them. School starts in 2 weeks, Ethan mentioned. You nervous? A little, Lily admitted. What if the other kids are mean? What if they ask questions we don't want to answer? Then you tell them it's none of their business. You don't owe anyone your story. He looked at them both. But if someone's genuinely kind, if they want to be friends, don't shut them out because you're afraid. Not everyone leaves. Some people stay. Like you, Rose said. Like me. Like Clara. Like Tom and the others. We're staying. You can count on that. Later, in their room with the lamp turned low, Lily and Rose lay in their beds talking quietly. Do you think Mama and Papa would be happy we're here? Rose asked. Lily considered. I think they'd want us to be safe and fed and educated. They'd want us to have chances, so yeah, I think they'd be happy. I still miss them. Me too. We always will. But missing them doesn't mean we can't love this life too. Both things can be true at the same time. Rose was quiet for a moment. I love Ethan. Is that okay? Is it betraying Papa? No, Lily said firmly. Papa would want us to love whoever treats us right. Love isn't a finite thing. Having more of it doesn't take away from what came before. When did you get so wise? I'm not wise. I'm just trying to figure it out like you are. They fell asleep to the sound of crickets and the gentle creak of the house settling. Outside, the ranch stood solid under the stars, its fences mended, its corrals full, its future assured. 2 girls who'd been lost had been found. A man who'd been alone had become a father. And together, they'd built something that neither abandonment nor loss could break. In the morning, there would be chores and lessons and the ongoing work of becoming a family. But tonight, there was just peace and the profound relief of knowing they'd made it through the hard part. They were home. They were chosen. They were loved. And that, Lily thought, as sleep pulled her under, was more than enough. The first day of school arrived with September's crisp morning air. Lily woke before dawn, her stomach tight with nerves. Beside her, Rose was already awake, staring at the ceiling. You can't sleep either? Lily whispered. Too scared. What if they hate us? Then we'll have each other, same as always. They dressed in their school clothes, simple cotton dresses Clara had made, practical but nice. Clara braided their hair at the kitchen table while Ethan packed their lunch pails with sandwiches, apples, and cookies still warm from the oven. Remember what I told you, Clara said, tying off Rose's braid. Hold your head up. Don't apologize for existing. And if anyone's cruel, you report it to Miss Hartley. She doesn't tolerate meanness. What if she asks about our family? Lily asked. You tell her the truth. You're Ethan Cole's daughters. That's all anyone needs to know. Ethan drove them to town in the wagon, the ride quiet, except for the creak of wheels and the jingle of harness. The schoolhouse stood at the edge of Silver Creek, a white clapboard building with a bell tower and windows that caught the morning light. Children gathered in the yard, their voices carrying on the breeze. I'll be back at 3:30, Ethan said, helping them down. You need me before that. You send word with someone. Understood? Yes, sir, they chorused. He squeezed their shoulders. You'll do fine. You're smart girls with more grit than most adults I know. Don't let anyone make you feel less than what you are. They walked toward the schoolhouse holding hands, acutely aware of eyes tracking their approach. The other children ranged from 6 to 14, dressed in varying degrees of neatness, some barefoot despite the cooling weather. A group of girls their age stopped talking to stare. Those are the twins, one whispered, not quietly enough. The ones Ethan Cole took in. My ma says they were abandoned on the trail like unwanted puppies. I heard their real parents died and nobody else would take them. Lily's face burned, but she kept walking. Rose's hand tightened in hers. They climbed the steps and entered the schoolhouse, relieved to escape the scrutiny. Inside smelled of chalk dust and pine. Desks sat in neat rows facing a blackboard. A woman in her 30s stood at the front, dark hair pulled back, wearing a practical gray dress. She looked up as they entered, and her face softened. You must be Lily and Rose Cole. I'm Miss Sarah Hartley. Welcome. Thank you, ma'am, Lily said. I received a letter from your father outlining your education so far. You've had some gaps, but we'll get you caught up. She gestured to two empty desks near the middle of the room. Those are yours. The other children will be in shortly. The room filled gradually. 23 students total, Miss Hartley explained, ranging from primers to 8th grade. The older students took the back rows, the youngest up front. Lily and Rose sat together, surrounded by children who stared with undisguised curiosity. A girl with blonde braids leaned across the aisle. Is it true you're adopted? That you're not really his daughters? We're legally adopted, Lily said evenly. That makes us real daughters. But you're not blood. Blood isn't the only thing that makes family. The girl considered this, then shrugged. I'm Emma Whitmore. That's my brother Jacob in the back. He's 15 and thinks he's too good for school, but Ma makes him come anyway. I'm Lily. This is Rose. I know. Everyone knows. My ma says Ethan Cole's a good man for taking you in, but some of the other women think it's improper. A single man raising girls. Emma lowered her voice. Don't worry, though. Ma told them to mind their own business. Miss Hartley rang a small bell, calling the class to order. The morning began with arithmetic, then reading, then geography. Lily discovered she was behind in mathematics, but ahead in reading. Rose struggled with both, but excelled when Miss Hartley shifted to natural science, identifying plants and animals from drawings with an accuracy that impressed the teacher. At lunch, they sat under a cottonwood tree, unwrapping their sandwiches. Some children played nearby, but most kept their distance, watching the twins like they were exotic creatures who might bolt at sudden movement. Emma plopped down beside them, uninvited. Can I sit here? Jacob's being stupid with his friends, and I don't want to eat with the little kids. Sure, Rose said, grateful for the company. Emma pulled out her own lunch, bread and jam, an apple. So what's it like living on a ranch? Do you have to shovel manure and everything? Sometimes, Lily admitted. But we also get to ride horses and swim in the creek and read any book we want from Ethan's library. He lets you read his books? My pa says girls don't need education beyond basic reading and ciphering, says it gives us ideas. What kind of ideas? Rose asked. The kind where we think we're as good as men, I guess. Emma bit into her apple. I don't care what he says. I'm going to be a teacher like Miss Hartley, or maybe a doctor. I haven't decided. Lily felt a spark of kinship. You want to be a doctor? Why not? Someone's got to do it, and the men around here are terrible at listening to women's ailments. They just prescribe laudanum and rest, like that cures everything. They talked through lunch, discovering shared interests and differences. Emma was bold, where Rose was gentle, opinionated, where Lily was careful, but she was also kind and smart and refreshingly honest. By the time Miss Hartley rang the bell calling them back inside, Lily felt the first tentative threads of friendship forming. The afternoon dragged. History lesson on territorial expansion, penmanship practice that made Lily's hand cramp, a spelling bee that Rose won, much to everyone's surprise. When 3:30 finally arrived, Lily gathered their things with relief. Ethan waited by the wagon, leaning against the wheel. Several mothers stood nearby, their conversation stopping when they noticed him. Lily caught fragments as they approached. Inappropriate for unmarried man, those girls need proper guidance. Clara Peterson is respectable, at least. Ethan's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. He helped the twins into the wagon and drove away without acknowledging the women's stares. How was it? He asked once they'd left town behind. Okay, Lily said carefully. Miss Hartley's nice. The lessons were interesting. Some of the kids stared, but nobody was outright mean. We made a friend, Rose added. Emma Whitmore. She's funny. That's good. Real good. Ethan's hands were tight on the reins. You hear any of what those women were saying back there? Some, Lily admitted. Don't let it get to you. People talk. Always have, always will. Long as we know what's right between us, their opinions don't matter. But Lily could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his mouth pressed into a hard line. It bothered him more than he wanted to admit. She wondered how long before the gossip became something worse. That evening after supper, Clara pulled them aside while Ethan was out checking on a sick calf. I need to tell you something, she said, her voice serious. There's talk in town. Some of the women think it's scandalous for Ethan to be raising young girls. They're saying cruel things, questioning his motives. Lily's stomach dropped. But he hasn't done anything wrong. I know that. You know that. Anyone with eyes can see he's treating you proper and decent. But reputation matters in small towns, and unmarried men with children raise eyebrows. Clara sat down, her expression troubled. I'm telling you this because it might affect how some people treat you. There might be invitations you don't receive, friends whose parents don't let them visit. It's not fair, but it's reality. What can we do, Sich? Rose asked. Hold your heads high. Be beyond reproach in your behavior, and know that good people will see the truth eventually. The rest don't matter. Clara reached out, squeezing their hands. I'm here to be that woman's influence Mrs. Brennan mentioned. I'll make sure you're raised proper. And I'll make it known around town that this household is run with absolute propriety. The next morning, Clara accompanied them to school. She spoke with Miss Hartley privately for several minutes while the twins took their seats. Whatever was said, Miss Hartley nodded seriously and glanced toward them with something like protective determination. The weeks fell into routine. School 5 days a week, chores and lessons on the ranch evenings and weekends. Emma became a regular presence, her friendship steadfast despite her father's grumbling about associating with those Cole girls. Other children warmed to them slowly. A smile here, a shared game at recess there. But some remained aloof, their parents' disapproval creating invisible barriers. October arrived with frost warnings and the frantic work of fall roundup. Ethan and his men spent long days gathering cattle, sorting them, preparing some for market. The twins helped where they could, bringing meals to the working men, mending gear, keeping the home fires burning. One evening, Tom rode in with news that sent tension rippling through the ranch. There's a woman in town asking questions, he said, dismounting stiffly. Showed up 2 days ago. Says she's looking for twin girls who might have been traveling through the territory this summer. Lily felt the world tilt. What did she look like? Didn't see her myself. Heard it from Carlos, who heard it from the blacksmith. Older woman, thin, wearing black, sounded official-like. Ethan's face went hard. Did she give a name? Rebecca Winters said she was trying to locate her stepdaughters. The name hit Lily like a fist. Their stepmother. Here. Looking for them. Rose grabbed Lily's arm, her face pale. She can't take us back. She left us. She doesn't get to change her mind. Nobody's taking you anywhere, Ethan said firmly. You're legally adopted. I've got papers that say so. She has no claim. But Lily saw the worry beneath his certainty. Legal papers were one thing. The reality of a woman claiming maternal rights was another, especially when gossip already questioned Ethan's fitness as a guardian. I'm going to town, Ethan said. Tom, you stay here with the girls. Don't let them out of your sight. Wait, Lily said. We should come with you. We should face her. Absolutely not. I'm not putting you in front of that woman until I know what she wants. She wants us back, Lily said bitterly. Or she wants money to go away. Those are the only reasons she'd come looking. Ethan studied her face, seeming to weigh something. You're probably right, but I handle it. That's what fathers do. They stand between their children and trouble. He rode out as the sun set, leaving the twins in Clara and Tom's care. Lily couldn't sit still. She paced the kitchen while Rose huddled in a chair, clutching Margaret. Clara made tea. Nobody drank. What if the law sides with her? Rose whispered. What if they say blood matters more than papers? They won't, Clara said, but her voice lacked conviction. Ethan won't let them. 2 hours passed. 3. The moon rose full and bright, casting silver shadows across the yard. Finally, hoofbeats. Ethan dismounted and entered the kitchen, his expression grim but not defeated. I found her. She's staying at the boarding house. He sat heavily. She wants money. $1,000 to sign away all parental rights and disappear. Blackmail, Clara said flatly. Legal extortion, more like. She claims she had second thoughts about leaving you, that she's been searching for months, says she'll take the matter to court if I don't pay. She's lying, Lily said. She knew exactly what she was doing when she left us on that trail. She planned it. I know, but proving it's another matter, and dragging this through court would be expensive and public. The gossip alone could damage all of us. So you're going to pay her? Rose's voice cracked. I'm going to end this. Ethan met their eyes. I've got the money. Ranch has had good years. $1,000 hurts, but it's not ruinous. If pain gets her out of your lives permanently, it's worth it. It's not fair, Lily said. She doesn't deserve anything from us. No, she doesn't. But sometimes you pay to make problems go away. Sometimes that's smarter than fighting. He reached across the table, covering their hands with his. I won't let her take you. Whatever it costs, whatever it takes, you stay here. You understand? Lily nodded, tears burning her eyes. That Ethan would spend a small fortune to protect them. That he'd let himself be extorted rather than risk losing them. It said more than any words could about what they'd become to each other. The next morning, Ethan met with Rebecca Winters at Samuel Pritchard's office. The twins didn't go, but Lily imagined it anyway. The cold woman who'd abandoned them facing the man who'd saved them, money changing hands, papers being signed, a transaction reducing their worth to $1,000 and the stroke of a pen. When Ethan returned, he carried documents. It's done. She signed a complete termination of parental rights. She's leaving on the noon stage to Montana. We'll never see her again. Lily looked at the papers, at the signature that ended Rebecca Winters' claim to them forever. She felt nothing. No relief, no anger, no sadness. Just a vast emptiness where those emotions should have been. Are you all right? Ethan asked gently. I don't know. I thought I'd feel something, but I just feel tired. That's normal. When you've carried fear for a long time, letting it go leaves a hole. He folded the papers carefully. But the hole fills eventually, with other things, better things. School that week was harder. Word had spread about Rebecca Winters' visit, and the gossip intensified. Some people praised Ethan's generosity. Others whispered that he'd paid so much because he had something to hide. The twins endured stares and whispered conversations that stopped when they approached. Emma remained fiercely loyal. My ma says those women are just jealous because Ethan Cole chose to help children instead of remarrying one of their daughters. Half of them have been angling to become the second Mrs. Cole since his wife died. It was a perspective Lily hadn't considered, that some of the hostility might stem from thwarted matchmaking rather than genuine concern. The thought was oddly comforting. Mercenary motives she could understand better than moral outrage. But not everyone was driven by jealousy. One afternoon, Miss Hartley asked them to stay after school. When the other children had gone, she sat on the edge of her desk, her expression serious. I want you to know something, she said. I've been teaching in frontier communities for 8 years. I've seen children in every imaginable circumstance. Some are loved and cherished, some are tolerated. Some are used as free labor or worse. She looked at them both. I've watched you these past 2 months. I've seen how you carry yourselves, how you interact with others, how you speak about your home. And I see children who are cared for, genuinely cared for. Thank you, Lily said quietly. I'm telling you this because I know there's talk. I know people are questioning Mr. Cole's motives. But I want you to understand that some of us see the truth. And if you ever need someone to stand up for you, I will, without hesitation. Rose's eyes filled with tears. Why? You barely know us. Because I was an orphan once, too. I know what it's like to be judged for circumstances beyond your control. I know what it's like to have people assume the worst. Miss Hartley smiled gently. And because you remind me that sometimes the world gets it right. Sometimes the right person shows up at the right moment. Mr. Cole showed up for you. Now others need to show up for all of you. True to her word, Miss Hartley became an advocate. When parents questioned the twins' presence in school, she cited their excellent attendance and improving grades. When women gossiped at church socials, she pointed out that Clara Peterson's presence ensured absolute propriety. Slowly, grudgingly, some of the hostility eased. November brought early snow and the first real test of their new family. Rose came down with fever, her body burning hot while she shivered beneath quilts. Clara made willow bark tea and cool compresses. Ethan paced like a caged animal, his face drawn with worry. It's just fever, Clara assured him. Children get them. She'll be fine. But Ethan had lost his wife to illness. Lily could see the terror in his eyes, the way his hand shook when he checked Rose's forehead. For 3 days he barely left her bedside, reading to her when she was awake, watching her breathe when she slept. Lily sat with them, holding Rose's hand, remembering their mother's fever. The way it had burned through her so fast nobody could stop it. The terrible helplessness of watching someone fade. "She's not going to die," Lily said, as much for herself as for Ethan. "She's strong. She'll fight through this." "I know," Ethan said, but his voice was hollow with fear. On the fourth day, Rose's fever broke. She woke asking for water and toast, her face pale but eyes clear. Ethan sagged with relief so profound he had to leave the room. Lily found him on the porch, his head in his hands, shoulders shaking. "She's okay," Lily said, sitting beside him. "She's going to be fine." "I know, His voice broke. "When Sarah got sick, I couldn't do anything. I watched her slip away and I was useless. I couldn't bear it happening again." "It didn't happen. Rose is strong. We're both strong. You don't have to worry so much." Ethan looked at her and Lily saw something shift in his expression. Recognition, maybe, that she was older than her years. That loss had made her understand things children shouldn't have to understand. "You've seen too much for 7 years old," he said quietly. "Maybe, but so have a lot of kids out here. The frontier doesn't let you be innocent very long." "No, I suppose it doesn't." He straightened, wiping his face. "But you've got me now, and Clara, and a home that's solid. You don't have to carry everything alone anymore." "Neither do you," Lily said, and watched the truth of it land. They'd all been alone in different ways. Lily and Rose abandoned, Ethan widowed, but now they'd found each other, built something together from the wreckage of what they'd lost. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't without struggle, but it was real. Rose recovered slowly, gaining strength day by day. By the time school resumed after the fever scare, she was back to her usual self, laughing and learning and befriending every animal on the ranch. The experience had changed something, though. Ethan was gentler with them now, more openly affectionate. Clara seemed more permanent, less like hired help, and more like actual family. The four of them moved together more easily, their rhythms synchronized by shared crisis and shared relief. December arrived with bitter cold and preparations for Christmas. It would be the first real Christmas the twins had celebrated since their mother died. Clara threw herself into preparations, baking cookies and planning a feast. Ethan brought home a small pine tree that filled the house with sharp, clean scent. They strung popcorn and made paper decorations, transforming the parlor into something magical. On Christmas Eve, they gathered around the tree. Ethan read from a book of winter stories while Clara served hot cider. Tom, Carlos, and Hank joined them, bringing small gifts they'd made. A carved box from Hank, rope halters from Carlos, a slingshot from Tom. When it was time for bed, Ethan stopped them. "Wait, I have something." He retrieved a wrapped package from behind the settee and handed it to them. Inside were 2 books, beautiful leather-bound volumes with gilt edges. One was filled with blank pages, the other with stories of frontier women who'd built lives in harsh territory. "The blank one is for your stories," Ethan said. "Whatever you want to write or draw or remember. The other is so you know you're not the first girls to face hard things and come through stronger. There's a whole history of women out here who survived and thrived. You're part of that tradition now." Lily traced the leather binding, feeling the weight of the gift. Not just books, but belief. Belief that their stories mattered, that their futures held possibility. "Thank you," she whispered. "For everything. For stopping on that trail, for bringing us home, for keeping us." "Thank you for trusting me enough to stay," Ethan replied. "You've made this house feel alive again. You've given me purpose beyond just surviving. That's a gift I can never fully repay." Later, lying in their beds with lamplight flickering against the walls, Rose spoke into the darkness. "Lily, do you think we'll ever stop being afraid? Really afraid deep down?" Lily considered. Outside, wind howled through the eaves. Inside, the house was warm and solid. "I don't know. Maybe not completely. Maybe when you've been left once, part of you always worries it'll happen again." She paused. "But I think the fear gets smaller, quieter, easier to ignore when you've got proof every day that this time people are staying. I hope so, because I want to stop feeling like I have to earn my place here." "Me too, but Clara's right. It gets better. The hole fills up with other things." They fell asleep to the sound of the wind and the certainty that tomorrow would bring Christmas morning, with its gifts and feast and the simple comfort of people who'd chosen to be family. Not because they had to, not because of blood or obligation, but because they'd all been given a second chance and had been brave enough to take it. Christmas morning dawned clear and cold, the kind of morning where breath turned to vapor and frost painted patterns on the windows. Lily woke to the smell of cinnamon and coffee, Clara's voice carrying up from the kitchen singing something cheerful and off-key. Rose was already awake, sitting up in bed with the leather-bound storybook open in her lap. "Listen to this," Rose said, reading aloud. Martha Jane Canary arrived in Deadwood with nothing but a horse and a rifle. Within 5 years, she'd established a freight business that supplied half the mining camps in the Black Hills. When people said women couldn't handle frontier commerce, she proved them wrong through sheer determination and business sense. Calamity Jane, Lily recognized. Ethan told us about her once. The book says she was orphaned young too, had to raise her siblings after their parents died. Rose closed the book carefully. We're not the only ones who had to figure out how to survive. They dressed and went downstairs to find the kitchen transformed. Clara had outdone herself, cinnamon rolls fresh from the oven, scrambled eggs with cheese, bacon crisp enough to shatter, and hot chocolate so rich it was almost sinful. Ethan sat at the table already, his hair still damp from washing, wearing his best shirt. "Merry Christmas, girls." "Merry Christmas," they chorused, sliding into their seats. The day unfolded with the slow, sweet pleasure of a holiday done right. After breakfast, they gathered in the parlor. Tom, Carlos, and Hank had been invited to join them, and they arrived bearing unexpected gifts. A wooden toy horse from Hank for Rose, a leather journal cover from Carlos for Lily, and from Tom, matching silver hair combs that must have cost him weeks of wages. "You didn't have to do that," Lily said, overwhelmed. "Wanted to," Tom said gruffly. "You girls are part of this ranch now, part of our family here. That means we look after you." Clara gave them each a dress she'd sewn in secret, practical calico for every day but with special touches, lace at the collar, ribbon trim, tiny embroidered flowers along the hem. Ethan's gift was last, a large box that the twins opened together to find riding boots made of soft leather, custom fitted to their feet. "For when you're ready to really learn to ride," he said. "Not just sitting on a gentle horse while someone leads you around. Real riding, where you control the animal and learn to move with it." "When can we start?" Rose asked, her eyes shining. "Spring, when the weather's better and the horses are less skittish from being cooped up all winter." Ethan smiled. "By summer, you'll be good enough to ride out with me on the range, help with actual ranch work." The afternoon was spent in contented idleness. Clara's feast appeared at 2, roasted turkey, mashed potatoes, gravy, biscuits, green beans with bacon, sweet potato pie, and apple cobbler. They ate until they were stuffed, then sat around talking while the winter sun tracked across the parlor floor. "Tell us about your wife," Rose said suddenly, startling everyone. "Sarah. What was she like?" Ethan's face went still, but not closed. He'd learned over these months that talking about loss didn't reopen wounds, it honored memory. "She was practical, tough in the way frontier women have to be, but with this gentle streak that came out when she thought nobody was watching. She'd sing to the chickens when she fed them. She named all the horses after characters from books. She believed in making beauty wherever you could, even when life was hard." "Did she want children?" Lily asked carefully. "More than anything. We tried for years, but it never happened. She'd have loved you girls, would have spoiled you rotten and taught you everything she knew about running a household and handling animals and reading weather patterns." He paused. "Sometimes I think she sent you to me, like she knew I needed you as much as you needed a home." "Do you think people can do that?" Rose wondered. "Send things from wherever they are after they die? I don't know, but I'd like to believe it. I'd like to believe the people we love stay connected to us somehow, helping guide us toward what we need." That evening, after the ranch hands had returned to the bunkhouse and Clara had retired to her room, Ethan called the twins to the study. He'd lit a fire in the small fireplace, and the room glowed warm and golden. "I have one more thing," he said, pulling out a wooden box from his desk drawer. Inside were 2 rings, delicate gold bands with small stones. These were Sarah's. Not her wedding ring, That's buried with her, but rings her mother gave her when she was young. I've been saving them, not sure what to do with them, but I think she'd want you to have them, to wear when you're older, when your hands are big enough to keep them on." Lily took one of the rings carefully, holding it up to the firelight. The stone caught the glow, throwing tiny rainbows across her palm. "Are you sure? These must mean a lot to you." "They do. That's why I'm giving them to you. Because you're my daughters now, legally and in every way that matters. These are part of your inheritance, part of your connection to the family you're building here." He looked at them both. "Sarah would have wanted you to have something beautiful, something that said you're valued and precious and permanent." They put the rings back in the box for safekeeping, understanding the weight of what they'd been given. Not just jewelry, but legacy. Acceptance. Proof that they'd been woven into the fabric of this family so thoroughly that they inherited not just Ethan's name, but his history. The winter passed in a blur of school and chores and the slow, steady work of becoming a family. January brought blizzards that trapped them inside for days at a time. Lily and Rose read through half of Ethan's library, improved their arithmetic until they were caught up with their grade level, and learned to play chess on the board Ethan brought down from the attic. February thawed enough for them to return to school, where Miss Hartley pushed them harder academically, recognizing their hunger to learn. The gossip about their household had mostly died down. Some families remained distant, but others had warmed. Emma's mother, Mrs. Whitmore, invited them to tea one Sunday, a gesture of acceptance that felt like a watershed moment. Other invitations followed: church socials, community gatherings, harvest planning meetings where Ethan's presence was requested and his daughters were included without question. March arrived with mud and the first hints of green. The ranch came alive again after winter's dormancy. Calves were born, requiring round-the-clock attention. Fences needed mending. Equipment needed maintenance. Ethan kept his promise, teaching the twins to ride properly, spending hours in the corral showing them how to read a horse's mood, how to sit balanced, how to communicate through touch and weight and voice. Rose took to it naturally, her gentle way with animals translating into confident horsemanship. Lily struggled more, approaching it with the same fierce determination she brought to everything, refusing to quit even when she fell and bruised and had to climb back on with tears in her eyes. "You don't have to prove anything," Ethan told her after she'd been thrown for the third time in one afternoon. "Nobody's judging you." "I'm judging me," Lily said, brushing dirt from her pants. "Rose makes it look easy. I want to be that good." "You will be. But Rose's gift is with animals. Yours is with people. You're the one Emma comes to with problems. You're the one who helps the younger kids at school. You're the one Clara trusts to handle complicated recipes. Everybody's got different strengths. But I want to be useful on the ranch. I want to help with real work. You are useful. You keep the books balanced when I'm too tired to add straight. You write letters to buyers and suppliers. You remember things I forget. That's real work." He helped her back onto the horse. "But I'll help you get better at riding too, because you deserve to feel confident in all the things you try." By April, Lily could ride well enough to accompany Ethan on short trips around the property. By May, she and Rose were both competent enough to help move cattle between pastures. It was hard, dusty work that left them exhausted and sore, but it also made them feel capable, strong, like they'd earned their place through sweat and effort rather than charity. The school year ended with a celebration. Miss Hartley organized a program where students recited poems, demonstrated their learning, and received certificates of achievement. Lily and Rose both advanced to the next grade level, their progress praised publicly. Afterward, families gathered for a picnic, and Lily noticed something had shifted. People spoke to Ethan without the edge of suspicion that had colored earlier interactions. Women included Clara in their conversations naturally, and children invited the twins to play without hesitation or sideways glances. "You've done it," Emma said, sprawling in the grass beside them. "You've gone from scandalous orphans to just regular kids. That's pretty impressive." "We didn't do anything special," Rose said. "We just lived." "That's exactly what made the difference. You just lived normal lives and let people see you weren't going to corrupt anyone or cause trouble. Now you're boring in the best possible way." Lily laughed. "I never thought I'd be happy to be boring. Boring is underrated out here. Exciting usually means someone's dying or buildings are burning." Summer brought its own rhythm. Long days of work balanced with moments of pure joy, swimming in the creek, riding to the edges of the property, helping with the massive garden Clara planted. Tom taught them to fish properly. Carlos showed them how to identify tracks and read signs of wildlife. Hank carved them each a knife and taught them how to sharpen and use it safely. One evening in late June, exactly 1 year after Ethan had found them on the trail, he called them to the porch after supper. The sun hung low on the horizon, painting the prairie in shades of gold and amber. "I was thinking about dates today," he said. "Realized it's been a year since you came home." "Has it really been a whole year?" Rose marveled. 365 days. You've grown at least 3 inches each. You've learned to ride, to read at a higher level than most adults, to handle ranch chores, and to hold your own at school. You've made friends and earned respect and become part of this community." He paused. "I'm proud of you, both of you, not just for surviving what happened to you, but for how you've faced everything since." "We couldn't have done it without you," Lily said quietly. "Without you stopping that day. Without you giving us a chance." "I think we gave each other chances. You could have stayed closed off, suspicious, waiting for me to fail you. But you took the risk of trusting again. That takes more courage than most people have." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sky deepen from gold to rose to purple. A coyote called in the distance, its voice lonely and wild. The ranch settled into evening sounds, horses shifting in the corral, cattle lowing, chickens murmuring as they roosted. "What do you think happens to us now?" Rose asked. "I mean, we've got the adoption and we're settled and everything's good, but what's next?" Ethan considered. "Next is whatever you want to make of it. You'll keep going to school, keep learning, keep growing. In a few years, you'll have to decide what kind of life you want. Maybe you stay here and help run the ranch. Maybe you become a teacher like Miss Hartley, or a doctor like Emma dreams about, or something nobody's even thought of yet. The point is, you'll have choices, real choices, not just survival." "I want to help other kids," Rose said suddenly. "Kids like us who don't have anywhere to go. I want to make sure they're safe." "That's a good dream," Ethan said. "Noble one." "What about you, Lily?" Rose asked. Lily thought about it, about the year behind them and the years ahead. "I want to learn everything. How to run a ranch, how to manage money, how to build something that lasts. And I want to write. I want to tell stories about people like us, people who survived hard things and built good lives anyway." "Also noble," Ethan said. "Also possible if you work for it." July brought the news that would change everything. Mrs. Brennan arrived unannounced, driving her own wagon this time, looking travel-worn and serious. The twins' hearts sank when they saw her, old fears surging back. Had something gone wrong with the adoption? Was she here to take them away? But Mrs. Brennan's news was different than they'd feared. "I'm here about a proposal," she said, accepting the tea Clara offered. "I've been working in child welfare for 15 years now, and I've seen every kind of placement imaginable. Most are adequate. Some are terrible. A few are exceptional." She looked at Ethan. "Yours is exceptional. The transformation in these girls in 1 year is remarkable. They're thriving in ways I rarely see." "Thank you," Ethan said carefully. "But I sense there's more to this visit." "There is. The territorial government is establishing a formal fostering and adoption program. They need model families to participate, to show what's possible when placements are done thoughtfully. They're asking if you'd consider taking in more children, not immediately, but in the future when you feel ready." The words hung in the air. More children, more lost kids needing homes. "I need to think about it," Ethan said. "Talk to my daughters, to Clara. This isn't a decision I make alone." After Mrs. Brennan left, they gathered in the kitchen. Clara made coffee, and they sat around the table processing the proposal. "How would you feel about it?" Ethan asked the twins. "About sharing your home with other children who need help?" Lily looked at Rose, a whole conversation passing between them in silence. They'd been abandoned. They'd been saved. They'd been given something precious: safety, education, love. Could they share it without diminishing what they had? "I think we should do it," Rose said slowly. "Not right away, maybe, but eventually. Because we know what it's like to have nowhere to go. We know how it feels to be thrown away, If we can keep other kids from feeling that way, we should. Lily? Ethan prompted. I'm scared, she admitted. Scared that if there are more kids, we'll matter less. That we'll go back to being charity cases instead of daughters. That won't happen, Ethan said firmly. You're my daughters, legal and permanent. Nothing changes that. If we do this, and it's a big if, it'll be because we have something good here that we can share. Not because I'm replacing you or because you're not enough. But there are limits, right? We can't take in dozens of kids. This isn't an orphanage. Agreed. Maybe 2 more. Maybe 3 at most if circumstances were exceptional. Small enough to still be a family, not an institution. He looked around the table. But we don't decide today. We sit with it. We talk about it. We make sure we're all truly on board before we commit to anything. They sat with it through August, discussing scenarios and concerns and possibilities. Clara pointed out that the house was big enough, that they had the resources, that she could handle the additional work. Tom and the ranch hands said they'd support whatever the family decided. Miss Hartley, when consulted, said having older children in the home might actually help younger foster children adjust better. In early September, right before school started, they made their decision. They'd say yes, but with conditions. No more than 2 additional children at a time, school-aged children who could participate in ranch work, and a trial period for everyone to adjust before anything became permanent. Mrs. Brennan accepted their terms with evident satisfaction. I'll keep you in mind when appropriate situations arise. It may be months before we have children who match your criteria, but when we do, you'll be the first family I contact. The fall semester brought new challenges and growth. Lily moved into the advanced reading group and started helping Miss Hartley with the younger students. Rose excelled in every science lesson and began keeping detailed journals of animal behavior around the ranch. Emma remained their closest friend, but other friendships deepened too. The twins were no longer oddities, but integral parts of the community. October arrived with its crisp air and brilliant colors. One afternoon, Ethan called them to the barn where he'd been working on something secretive for weeks. Inside, they found 2 saddles, smaller than adult saddles but beautifully made, with their initials tooled into the leather. They're yours, Ethan said. Your own tack for your own horses. You've earned them. Rose ran her fingers over the smooth leather, her eyes shining. They're beautiful. Now you're real ranch hands, Tom said from the doorway. Can't be proper cowboys without your own gear. That evening, Lily wrote in her journal for the first time in weeks. She documented the year, the fear and uncertainty of those first days, the slow building of trust, the moments of joy and struggle and growth. She wrote about Rose's laughter returning, about Ethan's quiet strength, about Clara's steady presence, about the ranch hands who'd become uncles in all but name. She wrote about the girl she'd been standing on that trail, scared and angry and determined to protect her sister at all costs. And about the girl she was becoming, still protective, still strong, but softer now, less armored, more willing to believe in good things. November brought an early snow and unexpected news. Mrs. Brennan arrived with a boy, maybe 8 years old, thin and silent with haunted eyes. His name was Daniel, and he'd been found living alone in an abandoned mining camp after his father drank himself to death. I know we said we'd wait, Mrs. Brennan said, but Daniel needs placement immediately, and I thought of you first. He's had a hard time. Been through 3 temporary placements in 2 months. He doesn't talk much, doesn't trust easily. But I think with patience and the right environment, he could heal. Ethan looked at the twins. They looked at each other, then at Daniel, standing in the cold with everything he owned in a small cloth bag. We'll try, Lily said. We'll all try. Daniel moved into the room across from theirs, the one that had been storage until Clara cleaned it out. He barely spoke that first week, jumping at loud noises, hoarding food in his pockets, watching everyone with wary distrust. But slowly, through consistent kindness and the example of 2 girls who'd been just as broken not so long ago, he started to soften. Rose taught him to care for the animals. Lily showed him how to read the books in Ethan's study. Clara fed him patient meals and didn't comment when he ate like someone afraid it would be taken away. Ethan gave him space and time and the same steady presence that had saved the twins. By December, Daniel smiled occasionally. By Christmas, he was talking in full sentences. By February, he'd stopped hoarding food and started sleeping through the night. The healing was slow and imperfect, but it was happening. One evening in March, 2 years after Ethan had found the twins on that dusty trail, they all sat together on the porch. The sunset painted the sky in impossible colors, and the prairie stretched endless in all directions. Daniel sat between Lily and Rose, his thin shoulders finally starting to fill out, his eyes less haunted than they'd been. "Tell me the story," he said quietly, "about when you first came here." Lily and Rose exchanged glances. They'd told bits and pieces before, but never the whole story, never the raw truth of abandonment and rescue and the long road to belonging. "We were standing on a trail," Lily began, and Rose picked up the thread, and together they told it. The waiting, the fear, the moment Ethan stopped, the choice to trust, the hard work of building a family from fragments and hope. Daniel listened with the intensity of someone recognizing their own story in someone else's words. When they finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "Do you think I'll feel safe here eventually?" he asked. "Really safe, like you do?" "Yes," Rose said with certainty. "It takes time, but it happens. One day you'll wake up and realize you're not scared anymore, that you believe this is real and permanent and yours." "How long did it take you?" "About a year," Lily admitted. "Longer for some feelings, shorter for others, but every day it got a little easier to trust that nobody was going to leave." Ethan cleared his throat. "Daniel, I want you to know something. You're not temporary. If you want to stay, if this feels like home to you, then this is where you belong. We'll make it legal when you're ready, but either way, you're part of this family now." Daniel nodded, tears tracking down his face. He didn't wipe them away, didn't apologize for crying. He just let himself feel it. The relief and grief and gratitude all mixed together. The years that followed brought more changes. Another child joined them briefly before deciding she was better suited to a family in town. 2 more stayed permanently, siblings found living in a burned-out homestead after their parents died of influenza. The house filled with noise and life and the constant chaos of children growing up. Lily and Rose grew into young women who knew their worth, who worked alongside men on the ranch and studied hard in school and dreamed big dreams about their futures. They never forgot what it felt like to be abandoned, but they also never let that define them. Instead, they used it as fuel, proof that surviving hard things made you stronger, that people could choose to be family, that home was something you built with intention and care. Rose eventually became a veterinarian, one of the first women in the territory to do so. She traveled throughout Dakota treating animals, but always came home to the ranch, to the room she'd shared with Lily, to the family they'd built together. Lily became a writer and a teacher, documenting the stories of frontier families and teaching children of all backgrounds. She married a rancher from the next valley over, but kept her name, Cole, because it represented everything she'd survived and everything she'd become. Daniel grew into a steady young man who took over much of the ranch operations, working alongside Ethan until the older man's health failed. He married a girl from town and raised his own children on the land, teaching them the same lessons about family and resilience that had saved him. But all that came later. On that March evening, with the sun setting and the prairie wind carrying the scent of coming spring, they were just a family sitting together, not bound by blood, but by something stronger, choice and commitment and the daily work of showing up for each other. Ethan looked at the children gathered around him and thought about the day he'd ridden past 2 small girls standing in the dust. He'd almost kept going, almost convinced himself it wasn't his problem. But something had made him stop. Maybe Sarah's voice in his head, maybe simple human decency, maybe just the recognition that he could help and therefore should. That one choice had transformed everything, had given him purpose and family and a future worth working toward, had saved children who deserved saving, had created something good out of loss and loneliness and the terrible things that happen to vulnerable people in hard places. "Thank you," he said quietly, surprising them all, "for trusting me, for staying, for teaching me that family is something you build, not something you're born into. You've given me more than I ever gave you." "We gave each other chances," Lily said, echoing his words from years ago. "That's what family does. They give each other chances and space and time to become who they're meant to be." The sky deep into indigo, stars emerging one by one. Inside, Clara was preparing supper, the smell of roasting chicken drifting out. In the bunkhouse, Tom and Carlos were probably playing cards while Hank whittled. In the barn, horses settled for the night. Across the property, cattle grazed in pastures green with spring growth. It was an ordinary evening on an ordinary ranch in Dakota Territory. Nothing dramatic, nothing that would make history books or inspire songs. Just a man and his children sitting together, watching the day end and the night begin, secure in the knowledge that they belonged to each other. But for the people who'd been lost and then found, who'd been thrown away and then chosen, who'd learned that love was something you built through steady effort and daily kindness. For them, it was everything. The prairie wind sang through the grass, carrying stories of all the people who'd passed through this land. Some stories ended in tragedy, some in triumph. Some, like theirs, ended in the simple, profound victory of surviving and thriving and building something that lasted. Two girls had been abandoned on a trail in the summer of 1886. A man had stopped when he didn't have to, and together they'd created a family that proved blood wasn't the only bond worth trusting, that choosing each other was sometimes stronger than being chosen by fate. The trail where they'd once stood alone was long gone, erased by weather and time and the countless feet that had traveled over it. But the family they'd built remained solid and real and permanent. A testament to the power of one person stopping, of children brave enough to trust again, and of the quiet revolutionary act of choosing love over convenience. As darkness settled fully and stars filled the sky above Silver Creek Ranch, Lily reached over and took Rose's hand. Rose took Daniel's, and together they sat in the peace of knowing they were home. Not because someone had given it to them, but because they'd built it together, one choice at a time, one day at a time, one act of courage at a time. And that, Lily thought as she watched the first stars appear, was worth every moment of fear they'd endured to get here. Worth the waiting on that dusty trail, worth the risk of believing in good things again. They were home. They were family. They were exactly where they belonged.